Celebrating 40 years of the U.S. Nationals, but today is payday for the biggest names in the sport. And my, how things have changed over the last 24 hours. The first few days of qualifying were run under sunny conditions, but now the rains have moved in. It is overcast, it is cool, and as those of you who follow drag racing know, changing weather conditions is critical for the crews. For more on that story, let's go to Steve Evans.
Brian, under these conditions, the supercharger is the nitro racer's best friend. As you know, humidity is water in the air. That displaces oxygen. The engines don't like that. But the superchargers, they love the cool. And the humidity gives them something to bite on internally, and that equalizes everything out. Take Eddie Hill, the 58-year-old Winston champion. He qualified #1 in Top Fuel on a warm, sunny day at 476. Earlier today, about a half an hour ago, in round #1, Eddie Hill, another 476, as he sent Shelly Anderson packing back to California. Don Prudhomme, on his final strike tour, qualified #2 at a 4.77-second elapsed time. First round, faced off with Jim Head, yet another 4.77. The Top Fuel racers are flying. In round #2, Don the Snake Prudhomme will face off with this car and its driver, Kenny Bernstein. Now, Bernstein had a rocky early season, and it's rumored he has spent almost $1 million testing alone right here at IRP. And everything they've learned, they have funneled into this brand-new race car. And let me tell you something, folks. This car will go 300 miles an hour on a bad run. And Bernstein knows his way to the winner's circle here in Top Fuel and Funny Car. Oh, and speaking of funny cars, that's another scenario. Here's two-time champ Frank Hawley.
Steve, the funny car drivers had a worse first round than did the Top Fuel drivers. A lot of the drivers experienced major engine damage. Funny car driver Jim Epler, at over 290 miles per hour, had the connecting rods break from his engine, which caused not only a great deal of engine damage, but also damage to the body. Now, his crew is going to have to do a lot of work between rounds to prepare his car for the next round of competition. Another driver that had just the same kind of damage in his engine is Al Hoffman. Now, Al lost this race in the first round, but his engine damage caused oil to come out on the exhaust headers. That caused a great fire, and Al had to deal with not only the flames and the fire, but also the smoke in the cockpit. Al's a veteran, and he was able to cope quite well. One of the reasons these funny car drivers are stressing their engines to limit is to catch up with another guy named John Force. Now, John had his own problems during qualifying and broke some engines, but they traced it to an electrical switch problem. They fixed it and came out in the first round of eliminations with a record 5.03-second run.
And we'll be seeing John Force in round 2 action in just a few moments, but now it's Top Fuel time.
And an interesting pair to open the round. Pat Austin, the defending U.S. Nationals champion, and Michael Brotherton, the quickest Top Fuel driver in the world. He'll be in the near lane. Austin just now accomplishing his burnout over in the far lane to heat up the tires and the racetrack as well. You know, Brian, as we look at the Winston Top Fuel points, after round #1, Scott Coletta has a huge lead, maybe a commanding lead, 11,936 points, and that's because he has been in the last 7 finals consecutively and won 5 of those, an NHRA record for the class.
This is Michael Brotherton. If you've been following us on NBC at Englishtown earlier this year, he ran the quickest time ever in drag racing, 4:69.
That's right. He's from Texas, and being the quickest has just added to his misery here. He qualified only 13th in a 16-car field at a 487, and really the same can be said for Pat Austin. He is not happy, nor is his crew chief Jim Brissett. They qualified 12th. Also at a 487, there is the patriarch of the Austin family, Walt. He said, Pat, do something now, or we're not going to be around the U.S. Nationals very long.
He's the defending champion here. He was the runner-up in 1991. He is very fast on this racetrack, but we'll see what he can do in the quarterfinals against Michael Brotherton.
Both cars carefully staging. The Christmas tree starting system will show them yellow, 0.4 of a second, later green. You react to the yellow, and they both did nicely. No advantage off the line, but it's Austin at 4.90 seconds, 295 miles an hour. Brotherton just struggling to a 5:07 losing.
Coming up next, it's Connie Coletta, 56 years old. He's been here since 1958, facing Corey McQuinnathan, 31 years old, from Placentia, California. Now let's go to Steve, who was with the first guy to qualify for the semis.
Not exactly paralyzing performance, but you're here, and that's what matters.
U.S. Nationals going to the semifinals. I could have walked down this track, been happy enough to me. That's all I care about.
Well, here's a guy that doesn't plan on walking down the track, Connie Coletta. He's been here so long, he's the first driver ever to top 180 miles per hour in 1962. You talk about experience. Corey McClenathan, he is in the far lane in the McDonald's car. They'll be going head-to-head.
And that is his crew chief, Lee Beard. Not only a wizard with a wrenches, but also a real motivational kind of guy. And he's been telling Corey all through this event, just relax. You're a good driver. You can get it done. You can win Indy. Connie Coletta, I'll tell you, he is so pumped up, he can pick up that car and throw it to the finish line. He has not had this shot at the U.S. Nationals in many years.
Came out of retirement this year to race with his son, and he has 2 wins so far this year. An outstanding year for Connie Coletta coming out of retirement. Here we go against Corey McClenathan.
Free stage, those top yellow lights. Another foot or so, the engine forward, trying to restrain 5,000 horsepower is not easy. A great start by Corey Mack, but it is not enough. Connie Coletta, 300 miles an hour in 4.81 seconds. The margin of victory, how about 7,000ths of a second, Brian?
Look at it again. McClenathan is 200ths faster off the line than Coletta. That translates to about a car length lead. As you can see, the front ends of both cars dancing in the early stages of this race. But then at the top end, watch Coletta close strong. He's 10 miles an hour faster nearly at the finish line. 300.90 miles per hour. Look how close the finish was. Here's Steve with the winner.
I have never seen you that excited. When you came around this turn, pounding on the steering wheel, it was a beauty.
I was. It was great. Sorry to do that to you, Corey, but, you know, I told you it was either one way or the other, wasn't it?
Corey got out first, but Connie Coletta had the power.
Now, but Indianapolis has not always been kind to Conrad Coletta. In the late 70s, he had a starter motor fail, which led to this venting of frustration as he was not able to answer the call. Then in 1982, in the Top Fuel final against his fiercest rival, Shirley Muldowney, he loses. And then 2 years later, he drops another Top Fuel final to Don Garland. So Indy holds some bittersweet memories for Connie.
Getting so close to winning Indy and never winning it, you know, I can remember my mom had a bottle of champagne, and she says, "We're going to drink that when you win Indy," and I think she drank it without me.
Hey guys, Don the Snake Prudhomme on his final strike tour. He has 7 U.S. national titles to his credit. The most emotional came 24 years ago on this very same track.
1970, where Jim Nicole and I were going for it in the final round, and his clutch came out of his car right in the lights and cut his car in half, and he went over the guardrail, and I went spinning down at the end of the track, you know, following his car, and I figured he had lost his life at that time.
Section on it or nothing.
Don Prudhomme expected the worst, but Jim Nicole walked away from that accident, and obviously Prudhomme did not follow up on his threat to retire.
The Snake comes to Indy this year, though, full of confidence. 2 weeks ago, Brainerd, Minnesota, he won, beating point leader Scott Coletta in the final round. He ran a career best of lap time. Kenny Bernstein and his crew chief Dale Armstrong have to be a little concerned right here. Round number 1, they overpowered the racetrack. Even though Kenny lost traction, his opponent Pat Dakin had more problems than he did, and Bernstein is around the stage for round 2. The Snake, well, he qualified number 2 at a 477, 295 miles an hour. He holds a lot of cards in this encounter.
This is a marquee matchup if there ever was one. The Snake against Kenny Bernstein.
The Snake, with his quicker elapsed time from the previous round, has the lane choice. Dale Armstrong hopes he's found the proper balance of clutch and horsepower to get Kenny Bernstein down to the IRP quarter mile.
Reaction times were close.
Identical, really. Prudhomme breaks something. Kenny Bernstein, oh my. The speed is faster than the current national record, 307 miles an hour, and the best elapsed time Bernstein has ever run, a 478.
Bernstein's reaction, 477. Prudhomme's 479. They're dead even at the start. Then at about the quarter track, something breaks in Don Prudhomme's car. Steve Evans at the far end says it was a drive shaft. That enables Kenny Bernstein to pull away for the win. 307.79 miles per hour, the second fastest speed ever run in the NHRA. The Snake will not strike in his final U.S. Nationals. There are a pair of legends for the last time at Indianapolis.
Kenny, can you begin to describe to everyone at home what it feels like to run 307 miles an hour?
Holy cow, I didn't realize it at all, I can tell you that. I thought it was pretty good because it moved around in the middle a little bit and it was picking up. But let me tell you, Prudhomme's a class act over there. We're really going to hate losing him as a driver in this sport, but back as an owner, that'll be great.
So Bernstein moves on to the semifinal round. Up next, Eddie Hill against Scott Coletta. There's Fuzzy Carter, Eddie Hill's crew chief, directing Eddie back into his starting position. Eddie, the #1 qualifier, 58 years old from Wichita Falls, Texas. He's been around an awfully long time, but he's never won the U.S. Nationals. He's won everything else but the U.S. Nationals. Eddie's opponent, Scott Coletta, 32 years old from Belleville, Michigan. We saw his father advance to the semifinals earlier. Scott would like to be there as well.
And no one has to tell Eddie Hill, who qualified #1 at a 476, that Scott Coletta has been in the final round the last 7 races consecutively. Ersie Hill, we talked a little earlier. She said, I don't like being the #1 qualifier. It's almost kind of a jinx. It's like you're right on the ragged edge of traction or smoking the tires. So let's see how Fuzzy Carter and Eddie Hill have set up this car. Scott Coletta way first. Scott Coletta. Scott Coletta. No! It is Eddie Hill. A picture-perfect 4.77 lap time, 292 miles an hour. Even though Coletta runs almost 300, he just didn't do it quick enough.
Look at it again. Coletta in the far lane got the jump at the start. 300s faster with the green than Eddie Hill. At half track, Hill takes the lead, but from there, he's hanging on for dear life. Coletta has the faster race car, 299, but Hill's 292, but Eddie Hill wins by 12 thousandths of a second. Here's Steve Evans.
Eddie, you won that one in style, a 477. Nice balance on the racetrack.
Oh, great, man. This car is so much fun when everything works. I love it when the parts don't fall off.
You're going to get Pat Austin next round. You've got lane choice.
Oh, great. Well, we'll take it. Man, we're having some fun. This is why we still like to do this after all these years. Thanks, boss. Yes.
So we're down to the final 4 in top fuel. The #1 qualifier, Eddie Hill, will square off against the 12th qualifier, Pat Austin. And then it's #7, Kenny Bernstein, against the 6th qualifier, Connie Coletta.
And next up, Brian, the first race in round 2 of the funny car category. These are drag racing machines not made for the claustrophobic. Take the engine out of a top fuel dragster, put it in front of the driver, wrap it with a carbon fiber replica body, and you got a funny car. That is Kenji Okazaki, the Japanese national in the Moon Eyes car, runner-up here 1 year ago to John Force. And here is a car you can never predict. Mark Oswald has not run a full season. You saw him win the funny car category here on Sports World at Englishtown this past May. Never know what to expect from Oswald except some big numbers. He qualified #7 at a 516, 293 miles an hour. So the real pleasant surprise of the 40th anniversary U.S. Nationals is maybe this guy. The fans love him. Kenji Okazaki qualified #2 at a 512. Only John Force was quicker.
And he had a huge disappointment last year in the final against John Force. The car broke before they could get into the staging area. He could not answer the call. Force went down solo. Kenji would love a rematch in this year's final.
Jim Dunn, Kenji's car owner, has been very hard on his driving this week and yelling at him between rounds, really punishing him. Oh, my. Kenji, almost a perfect start. You can't do it better than that. Kenji Okazaki, 5.05 seconds. His reaction time, Brian, 100th away from being perfect.
So Okazaki makes it to the semi for the 3rd time in 1994. And by the looks of things, that crew has a lot of work to do before the semifinal round. And look at this, the crowd giving the Snake a standing ovation after his final run to the U.S. Nationals.
Snake, we thank you, sir. It has been an incredible run.
We'll be back after this. Brian Hammond, Steve Evans, Frank Hawley back with you at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Quarterfinal round of the funny cars. And you're looking at the man who has dominated this series in John Force.
Oh, absolutely. He's dominated qualifying here at the U.S. Nationals at a 5:04. Earlier in round #1, he had a 5:03. He holds a national record of 4.99. If he can better that, it's worth an extra $50,000. And I wonder if that isn't weighing on the mind of Austin Roy, you see to the left. the commander-in-chief of the Forced Attack. You know, as far as the Winston Championship is concerned for 1994, take a look. You can stick a fork in it. It's done. John Force with 12,000 and change. He's going to win it. The race really is between Al Hoffman, Chuck Etzel, Pedregon, and Spurlock for that second position, and a lot of Winston bonus cast there as well.
And Casey Spurlock is John Force's opponent here in the quarterfinal round. Spurlock, they call him Hollywood.
He is a rather flamboyant guy. He won the opening event, the Winter Nationals of California, for the second time. And who could forget a year ago when John Force finally won the U.S. Nationals, and he did it in style, picking up the Big Butt Shootout on Sunday, the U.S. Nationals on Monday. But so far this year, he has not made a lot of money here. Al Hoffman won the 50 grand in the Butt Shootout yesterday. Force, maybe right now, is trying to set a national record. I don't know if this track will hold it, Brian. It's certainly not getting any better.
Will certainly become a story nowadays when John Force doesn't set some kind of a record.
Casey Spurlock in a brand new race car, untried when it arrived here. Force loses traction, tries to regain, no hope. Casey Spurlock, 5.15 seconds, 292 miles an hour. A little revenge for his final round loss at Gainesville this year, this Force.
Watch the right lane. The header flames. Force is on the gas. Then he loses traction. Then he starts backpedaling, trying to regain traction. Watch him nail it again, and the front end comes off the ground. By that time, Casey Spurlock was long gone, and John Force will be back on the trailer heading to California. Coming up next, it's Chuck Etchels against Dean Scusa. But before we get to that, here's Steve with an upset winner.
So many teams, when they race John Force, try to beat him with performance and beat themselves. You didn't do that.
No, Steve, we didn't. We had 57 minutes to get this car ready between rounds. Came to the starting line, didn't even have a chance to start the car. My guys did a great job. I didn't let it shake me in the car, and we beat the champ.
What went through your mind when you realized Force was out of the race?
I can't even tell you. I was so excited when I never saw Force up beside me. I saw that wind light come on at the guardrail, and I was ecstatic inside the car. It's a great day.
Indeed. The script is out of Hollywood.
Casey Spurlock now in the semifinals. You're riding on board with Chuck Etchels, 40 years old from Putnam, Connecticut, in his Dodge Avenger. He'll be facing off against Dean Scusa. There's Glenn Micras, the crew chief for Scusa, 27 years old from Brecksville, Ohio.
And Scusa is a very charismatic young man. It's a family operation out of Toledo, qualified number 5 to 516. Etchels had a horrible fire in Gainesville, Florida in March. It took them a lot of races to recover. They burned up their computer system. A lot of the data went away, but they're back on track. Qualified number 4. Crew chief John Medlin tuned this thing up to a 515 and 292. Scusa had a brush with the crash wall of Brainerd 2 weeks ago. That accounts for the brand new still in white Pontiac Formula 3 body. Chuck Etchels was the first to debut the new Dodge Avenger body, and it pierces through the atmosphere. It is Etchels at 527, 285 miles an hour. Dean Scusa having lots and lots of problems. 703, only 136.
And they're putting the body down now on the Rug Doctor funny car. They've made their repairs after their problems in the first round. This is the first car ever to go over 300 miles per hour in the funny car division. They did that less than a year ago. And Epler will be squaring off against Cruz Pedregon in the McDonald's car. Pedregon, the 1992 U.S. National Champion. And he went on to win the Winston Championship that year. Chuck Etchels is in the semis, and he's with Steve.
Well, Chuck, you're going the right way in eliminations, but the wrong way on the clock. 527s aren't going to win the U.S. Nationals.
No, I had to pedal. It started shaking real hard. We obviously just missed it on tune-up a little bit, but we're here to go another round, and that's what we care about.
I'm a little surprised how good the track is, considering the weather, the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's great, and, you know, I don't think lane choice really means anything, so I'm really not too upset with the 27. Hopefully John Medlin can look at the computer, make the right decision, and whoever we get, we're going to try and take them out.
Will have to be faster than a 527 if he plans on winning this year's running of the U.S. Nationals. Epler and Pedregon now backing into their starting positions. Cruz Pedregon has not won a race yet this year at 94, but he's been a runner-up twice. Jim Epler has had a rough season. 37 years old from Vancouver, Washington. A win here today would make up for a lot of hard time.
And there's a problem with Epler's car. Remember, Frank Hawley told us about the thrash they went through after round 1. That started Buster Couch pointing at something leaking on the pavement. He's the man that will make the ultimate decision. Buster says, shut it off. What a break for Cruz Pedregon. He has to make the run. The rules require it. And I think he will run as hard as he can for his new crew chief, Bob Brandt, who needs more and more data to get this car back into championship form. Bob only on the payroll. Well, this is the second race, really, replacing Mike Green. Watch Cruz. Let's see what he does. He's a magnificent driver, has tremendous car control and finesse with this Oldsmobile automobile. Oh, that's pretty. Whoa, so's the elapsed time. That'll cheer him up. 5:12 at 295 miles an hour. Pedregon to the semis. To the pits goes Epler.
And there's the oil on the pavement that Buster Couch was pointing to. He saw the problem and made Epler shut down. So here's a look at the final four in the funny cars. Cruz Pedregon will take on Kenji Okazaki. Okazaki has lane choice, and Casey Spurlock has lane choice in his battle against Chuck Etchell. Here's Frank with Jim Epler.
Jim, your guys thrashed just really hard to get this car ready for the second round of competition. What happened up there?
Well, I must have had some kind of an oil leak. You know, it's really unfortunate they ran those alcohol dragsters before us, but we didn't have time to really check it real good on the warm-up. And I had the same tune-up in there we had first round, so I felt pretty confident it'd run good again. But I'm really proud of my crew. Lance Larson, Steve Hillier, and the rest of the guys did a great job.
Even though we had a rain delay, the crowd stuck around. It is a huge crowd at Indianapolis Raceway Park. We'll be back after this break and our prudential update from New York. Indianapolis Raceway Park, it's time now for semifinal action in the top fuel category. And I guess if there is an upside to the rain delay we experienced today, is we're going to see these 6,000 horsepower machines run in the darkness.
It is an historic first for the U.S. Nationals. So I've been thinking about this. Connie Coletta against Kenny Bernstein. As it gets later, the 2-point drop. The driver, well, he's competing against the other driver. The crew chief, Dale Armstrong, Tim Richards, they've got to race this track. Forget the other car. How much will this track take? And here's two guys very good at it. Dale looks over at Tim Richards to see what he's doing with his machine. They both start to bring him forward. Your only enemy here is the racetrack, more so than the other driver.
It's been a disappointing season for Kenny Bernstein. He's only been to one final where he lost at Sonoma. Connie Coletta has 2 wins this year, looking for number 3 here.
A lot of raw fuel out of the pipes. That's a normal situation. Coletta the last to stage. And Bernstein loses traction in the first 30 feet. Connie Coletta spewing a little oil, but he still gets there first. He's got a lot of motors, trust me. 4.84 seconds at 293 miles an hour. Kenny Bernstein, his only win there was off the starting line by 200 a second.
There is Eddie Hill. He will be squaring off against Pat Austin in the other semifinal round. You're on board now. You'll be getting a great view from Eddie Hill's car. That's the rear wing where the camera is mounted.
Interesting. These are temporary lights. They were brought in for just a Friday night qualifying session, something special for the fans. Little did we know how badly they would be needed.
Pat Austin in the far lane, the defending champion here at the U.S. Nationals, has really been struggling. They've lost in the first round in 5 of their last 6 races. And now he'll be racing Eddie Hill with a chance to move on to the finals.
For Pat Austin, this is a bit of a Hail Mary. You know, earlier, Frank Hawley had a chance to take a look backwards, an Indy moment involving Eddie Hill.
1961 was the first year that the U.S. Nationals were held in Indianapolis, Indiana. And dragster driver Eddie Hill was there. He had a car that looked a lot different than the one he has now. It had 2 Pontiac engines in it and 4 rear drag slicks. Well, those skinny little tires caused a problem on the start line because when he took off, they literally ripped the asphalt from the ground. NHRA Chief Starter Buster Couch said, Eddie, you can't wreck our drag strip. We've got a big race to run. When you come back up for your next run, please drive to the outside where you're not going to wreck the racetrack for everyone else.
Well, Eddie Hill can now drive anywhere he wants to with the beautiful Pennzoil top fueler. Hill knocked off Shelly Anderson and Scott Coletta to get to the semifinals. Pat Austin beat Blaine Johnson and Michael Brotherton to get to this point.
Eddie Hill in the near lane. Changes the fuel mixture. They do it manually in the cockpit. Look at this. You're going for a ride on a rocket ship, folks. It's Eddie Hill all the way as Pat Austin overpowers the racetrack. Eddie Hill backs it down. Very intelligent. 5.02, 280 miles an hour.
So here's a look at the final pairing in top fuel, and look at this. Connie Coletta against Eddie Hill. Coletta has lane choice. Neither one of these drivers has ever won the U.S. Nationals. That will certainly change. And here's the senior citizen of that matchup, 58-year-old Eddie Hill, absolutely ecstatic to be in the final with a chance for his first win in Indianapolis.
I don't know if it was intentional or not, but not overpowering this racetrack was the smartest thing a man could do right now.
Well, I tell you what, we missed it a little bit. Something really strange happened up there early, but we somehow got through it.
What?
Well, it felt like it broke loose and like I pedaled it and saved it, or it shook and maybe drove through it or something. There's something pretty weird, but then it did pretty good later on. We were lucky. Thanks, boss.
Is this a season saver for Eddie Hill right here?
Oh, it feels so good. Yeah, really, this goes a long, long way towards salvaging an otherwise pretty dismal season for us.
There's a lot of racing left here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. We'll come back with the final four in the funny cars after this. Brian Hammond, Steve Evans, Frank Hawley back with you at Indianapolis Raceway Park. It's time for the semifinal round of the funny cars. And our first matchup has Casey Spurlock against Chuck Etchels. Spurlock has lane choice, and unlike most drivers with lane choice, has chosen the right lane.
I wonder if he watched the previous round in Top Fuel with Kenny Bernstein smoked the tires over there. Pat Austin had problems. But if you're comfortable with a lane and your car is set up for that lane, don't tempt fate. You're riding with Chuck Etchels, and you both lose. There goes Spurlock, streaking away from a broken Chuck Etchels to a 5.19 second elapsed time. A good speed, 292 miles an hour, but he was sound asleep off the starting line. It's a good thing Etchels had more problems than Spurlock did.
There's the car of Kenji Okazaki getting the spark put to it. It is now underway. He'll be facing Cruz Pedregon in his semifinal matchup. Of course, Okazaki familiar with being where he is. He was there last year, went to the final round, and there's Cruz Pedregon, also very familiar with his spot. He won this race back in 1992. Interesting story here. The owner of Okazaki's car, Jim Dunn, helped the McDonald's crew earlier this year. The McDonald's team was really, really struggling. Dunn went over, showed him a few things, got him back on track, and now he's going to meet him here in the semifinals of the U.S. Nationals. And the winner of this race will advance on to the finals, where they will meet Casey Spurlock, who is a very happy young man at the far end with Steve Evans.
What do we think of this brand new race car?
Oh, Steve, isn't this a great race car? To come out here to the U.S. Nationals, biggest race of the year, with a brand new race car that was just literally finished hours before we ran it the first time. Got to give a lot of credit to this crew, and you know all of these guys, and they've really worked hard. Ronnie Swearingen, Corey Lee. And I've got to say, just a little personal statement here. When I was a kid growing up, I used to watch the U.S. Nationals on TV, and I got to tell you, I'm getting a little emotional. You know, this is a boyhood dream for me to be in the finals of the U.S. National, and I, you know, that's all I can say. It's very emotional for me.
I won't add a word to that, Brian.
You can hear in the voice of the drivers that are being interviewed by Steve just how big this race is, just how much it means to these competitors. Who will RSVP Spurlock? We're going to find out here shortly.
No driver other than a North American has ever won an NHRA national event title. Kenji Okazaki had a shot at it a year ago. Maybe he will again.
Okazaki is up in smoke. Cruz Pedregon cruises to the win. 530, 286.44 miles per hour. So Cruz Pedregon advances to the championship round of the funny cars, where he will take on Casey Spurlock. Spurlock has lane choice, and he may have to fight that emotion we heard him talk about earlier, because he's going to be facing a veteran, a guy who's been there in Cruz Pedregon, the 1992 champion. It's awfully busy down in the Eddie Hill pits. Here's Steve Evans.
A lot of air between the frame rails of Eddie Hill's car, but soon to be filled with what Eddie calls a new lump. I guess that's Texas for motor. Had a look at his computer. He said it was the strangest run he ever made in the semifinals. The car shook violently 0.8 seconds into the run, confused the clutch for 1.9 seconds. When it finally hooked up, it pulled the motor down and burned the main bearings. Now, they're also going to put a brand new differential in the car. It made a funny noise up the return road, and funny could be trouble going into the finals of the U.S. Nationals.
Now let's take our first look at the Pro Stock category, the third professional class in NHRA drag racing. You are riding with Darrell Alderman, the 1991 U.S. Nationals champion and the points leader, who is in a battle with his teammate Scott Jeffreyon, followed by the Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson, the Pontiac of Jim Yates, and the Oldsmobile of Kurt Johnson. Earlier, Alderman squared off against Mark Powick in the semifinal round.
Alderman in the Dodge in the near lane, the Oldsmobile of Mark Powick. Alderman 2 weeks ago threw a race away, taking a starting line nap here at Indianapolis. It was the car that let him down. Something going wrong in the drivetrain of the clutch. Mark Howick sailed into his first ever U.S. Nationals final with a 717. Let's ride on board with Darrell Alderman. A replay of that incident. He almost got the Christmas tree, Brian.
Look how busy he gets when the rear end breaks away, sawing at the wheel, getting it pointed in the right direction. He does, but by that point, the race is gone. In the other semifinal, it was Warren Johnson against Indianapolis native Steve Schmidt.
Now watch the Oldsmobile of Johnson in the far lane. Look how long the front wheels were off the ground all the way through low and second gear. But it didn't matter. Johnson wins it by a nose. They both run identical 7.15 second elapsed time. I talked to Warren about that wheel stand.
Warren, a broken wheelie bar. This baby could have been a handful.
Oh, man, I feel like Bob Riggle in a wheel stanner. All I saw was a black sky and bats.
So Warren had an awful lot of work to do, but for Mark Pollock, it was routine maintenance. We'll see the Pro Stock Final when we return to Indianapolis Raceway Park. 40th U.S. Nationals. Will they get Eddie Hill ready in time for the Top Fuel Final? They better hurry because we're ready to crown our first champion in the Pro Stock category. It'll be a battle of Oldsmobiles. This one belongs to Mark Pollock. He'll be taking on Warren Johnson, who has lane choice.
It's been a tough season for Warren Johnson. It's been a tough U.S. Nationals for his crew chief, Greg Anderson, there. Not only does he have the flu, he got run over by a vehicle in the pits and is now playing drag racing ball with a broken rib. Experience, well, give the edge to Warren Johnson. He's won the U.S. Nationals 3 times, including the last 2 years. Mark Pollock, I don't think he's taken a breath since he won the semi. He is so pumped. They're just sitting there. They'll do this in Pro Stock. Who's going to break? Who's going to stage? Warren does. Howick does not hold him up. The U.S. Nationals final in Pro Stock. Johnson. He was off the mark first by 300, and he wins it by 4. A 713 to a 717, winning speed 193. Warren wins it for the 4th time.
It's been quite a while, but it's got to be sweet when you win it at Indy.
There's nothing like saving a season. To win at Indy will just make your year. There's just really no other race anywhere near as important as if we don't go on to win the World Championship. At least we won Indy, and that's it.
Adrenaline probably replaces the pain being felt by Greg Anderson from the broken rib. Take a look at it again. Johnson was first to stage. He was first off the line. You can tell the wheelie bar was fixed. The car is pointed straight down the racetrack, and it is flying. Pollock trying to play catch-up. Never can, really. He gets close, but not close enough. Warren Johnson wins by just a heartbeat. His 4th U.S. Nationals title, his 3rd straight at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Here's Steve with WJ.
I don't care how much you've won or where you've won. Winning Indy is an emotional tip-over.
Oh, this is something special. I mean, 3 times in a row for us. The way we've been running lately, this is unusual. I mean, Greg Anderson suffered through the worst weekend he probably ever had. He was sick when he got here. He got run over by the competition. It was unbelievable. This race really belongs to Greg.
Look at the point standings. A lot of people counted Warren Johnson out, but winning here, and he's back in the hunt with 4 races to go. It'll take a great finish, but it is possible. We're ready now for the Funny Car Final. Casey Spurlock in the Fruit of the Loom car facing the McDonald's car of Cruz Pedregon.
And if you looked at their pits preparing for this final round, it was totally opposite, 180 degrees. In the Spurlock pits, it was just everybody laughing and working and throwing wrenches and having a great time. We're in the finals. We're in the finals. Pedregon pits, it was quiet. It was methodical. Crew chief Bob Brandt won 4 Winston championships with Don Prudhomme. Look at this. Eddie Hill has got it test fired in the pits. Nothing blows up. Nothing's leaking. He'll make the final.
Good news for Eddie Hill fans. They've been thrashing back there, but their work is complete. They'll be ready to run against Connie Coletta. It's amazing to me, Steve, how much work these guys can get done, how efficient these crews can be in a short period of time.
And tonight, well, they have broken their own records as far as pit maintenance is concerned. Everybody fighting the weather. It's coming in. We all know it. Got to get this thing over with. That was Bob Brandt, new crew chief for Pedregon, making a little adjustment to the low-end idle circuit. These cars idle too high. The drivers can't control them with that hand brake. They'll scoot right to the beams and foul start.
Spurlock once again had lane choice. Once again has chosen the right lane.
I don't know how wise that is. It's late. I really don't. Pedregon last to stage. Great start. Identical reaction time. But Spurlock is fading. He tries to pedal the car to no avail, and it's a sea of red in the winning crew chief shot. The McDonald's gang cheering on Cruz Pedregon. He's won his second U.S. National, and whoa, and in style, a 5:13. Huge improvement, 288.
Identical reaction times. You can see from the flames shooting out of the headers, they are both on the gas at the same time, but you can see him starting to sputter in Casey Spurlock's car. He starts to backpedal a little bit. Meanwhile, Cruz Pedregon is long gone, and he's won his second U.S. Nationals in the last 3 years. What a comeback by this team. They were really struggling earlier in the year, and they've come back to win the U.S. Nationals. And look at this. Casey Spurlock absolutely heartbroken. Laying on the back of his car. We heard him tell Steve Evans earlier just how much this race meant to him. It was a boyhood dream to make it to the finals of the Nationals. And we see just how much it hurts to lose in the finals. Here's Steve with the winner.
No, you're not dreaming. You have won your second Indy.
I just can't believe that we won this race again. This is a shocker.
And you had final round performance, too, at 13.
Well, that's really great. The guys got their heads together. We got a good group of guys there, and everybody got together. There was some disagreeing, and, hey, we got it done.
Indeed, you did. Great job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Big move for Cruz Pedregon in the point standings with this win, all the way up to third place, but everybody's still battling for second because John Force has already checked out in the Funny Car Championship race. Well, Eddie Hill's car has been fixed. It is ready, and it's heading to the staging area for the final against Connie Coletta. And we'll have that for you when we come back to Indianapolis Raceway Park. It's time for the Top Fuel final. Eddie Hill, the engine has been changed. He is out for the burnout. We'll ride along with him. I guess, Steve, you could call this the senior citizen shootout, 58 against 56.
That's right, 115 years and 9 days, the total age. The oldest NHRA final ever. I have to tell you, what a difference between these two men. Not so much the machine. Eddie Hill, reserved, soft-spoken. Racing is his passion. It's all he cares about. Connie Coletta, a real swashbuckler. He got in trouble right here at the U.S. Nationals. Got banned for a couple of years. Started an air freight service that if Coletta was a nation, he would have the 20th largest airport in the world.
Now let's talk about Eddie Hill. He's got a brand new motor behind him. Psychologically, what does that do for a driver? Is he confident in that motor?
Depends on the team. Tim Richards, they could change bullets every round in the Coletta car, and Connie wouldn't even care. Eddie Hill, until this year, has never even had that many spare parts. This is not something that is routine for them. But he's got a new lump, as he put it, between the frame rails, and he hopes it'll carry him to about a $100,000 victory.
Two drivers, neither one has ever won a U.S. National Championship. That is about to change in just a few short moments.
Lane Joyce went to Coletta. Eddie Hill knew that. He and Fuzzy and Ursi and Jana and the whole gang, they have got together and said, don't overpower this racetrack. Don't beat yourself by smoking your tires. Ursi winding him in. What's going through her mind? Oh, what a supporter she has been in this man's career, on the water and on the asphalt. Coletta wins Indy. The 30-year dream is finally realized. Scott, his son, and the crew are delirious, and well, they should be. 4.8 second run, 301 miles an hour. He defeats Eddie Hill. Remember earlier I said a crew chief had to race the track? Tim Richards did.
Is it possible to have fun and still win drag races? I saw you knocking on the hood of his car, asking him if he was ready, and giving him a smile before the final. Is that how you do it?
Well, Connie is he's a great guy to work for. He has a lot of fun doing this. He's never won this race before, and he was just as excited as a young kid. I mean, he just has a lot of fun with it. There's not too many people really have a lot of fun with it.
Here's another look. Connie Coletta in the near lane with the hole shot by 4/100th reaction time over Eddie Hill. Coletta pulls out to the early lead. By this point in the race, Hill is nowhere in his vision, and he wants to keep it that way. Connie Coletta has been trying since 1958. He finally wins the U.S. Nationals, and he's with Steve Evans.
Just keep trying. 20, 30 years, you'll win it.
Thanks. Awesome. Unbelievable, Steve.
You know, the shield was really steamed up on your helmet. How did you see through that?
Oh, man, I don't know. I just held my breath when I was up there. I knew it was going to steam up, but that was probably because I was pretty happy getting the shutoff area.
Indeed. Eddie Hill, a tough customer. He had some problems. You're in a nice 80.
Okay, well, that was awesome. That's what it was. It chattered the tire. I said, please don't come loose.
Going to come back next year and try it again?
God willing, I'll be here.
Brian?
Not a bad way to come out of retirement for Connie Coletta. He gets his first U.S. Nationals championship. Eddie Hill, what a class guy. Here's a look at the point standings. Connie's son Scott still leading. Connie checks in at 4th. It's been an emotional weekend at IRP. For Steve Evans and Frank Hawley, I'm Brian Hammonds. Good evening from Indianapolis.